At 79 years old, Dolly Parton finally revealed the truth about her complicated relationship with Porter Wagoner. And what she said left fans stunned. For decades, country music lovers speculated about what really happened between the two icons. To the public, they looked perfect together, the flashy showman and the sparkling young singer. But behind the rhinestones and smiles was a story of control, heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately forgiveness. The story began in 1967. Dolly Parton, still relatively unknown outside of Tennessee, stepped onto the set of the Porter Wagoner show. Porter needed a new female singer after Norma Jean left, and Dolly was his choice, though not without hesitation. At first, Porter and his audience weren't sure she would fit in. Her look was bold, her mountain-edge voice was raw, and she was unlike anyone else in country music at the time. But within weeks, audiences warmed to her. By the end of that year, she wasn't just part of the show, she was the star attraction. On stage, their chemistry was electric. Porter played the confident host in rhinestone suits, while Dolly charmed viewers with her innocence, wit, and powerhouse voice. Together, they created an image of harmony. Their duets, like The Last Thing on My Mind and Please Don't Stop Loving Me, climbed the charts, and millions tuned in weekly to see them sing and banter. Nashville labeled them the Golden Duo. Fans even speculated about romance, though Dolly always insisted it was strictly professional. But behind the curtain, things weren't so simple. Porter was proud of Dolly, but he also felt ownership over her career. He introduced her as "my girl" or "my discovery," a phrase that quietly frustrated Dolly. She was grateful, but she was also ambitious. She wanted to write songs that reached beyond a TV show and to grow into her own artist. Porter, however, expected loyalty. He had discovered her, and in his mind, she owed him her success. As the 1970s began, the tension grew. Dolly's fame exploded. She was winning awards, becoming a household name, and even outshining Porter. The more she rose, the more controlling he became. He argued over business decisions, insisted on creative control, and often reminded Dolly in public that she belonged by his side. To outsiders, their partnership still looked perfect, but inside it was crumbling. By 1973, Dolly had reached her breaking point. She was exhausted from the battles, torn between gratitude for Porter's help and resentment over his control. She loved him like family, but she knew she could not grow unless she left the show. The decision broke her heart, but she also knew it was necessary. Dolly wanted to leave gently, without bitterness. One night, she sat down with her guitar and poured her emotions into a song. That song was "I Will Always Love You." It wasn't written for a lover. It was written for Porter. When she played it for him, he reportedly told her it was the best song she had ever written. Yet he was furious at the reality behind it. She was leaving him. In 1974, Dolly walked away from the Porter Wagoner show. Fans were shocked, some even angry. To them, she had abandoned the man who made her a star, but Dolly knew she had to chase her own dreams. And though it came from heartbreak, "I Will Always Love You" became one of her greatest songs, later recorded by both Dolly and Whitney Houston as one of the most famous ballads in history. Porter, however, did not handle the split gracefully. As Dolly's solo career soared, his resentment grew. He believed he had built her and deserved a share of her success. By the late 1970s, his bitterness boiled over. He filed a lawsuit against Dolly, demanding millions for breach of contract. The legal battle shocked fans who still thought of them as inseparable. For Dolly, it was one of the most painful experiences of her life. She had hoped her song would be a peaceful farewell. Instead, their story turned into one of country music's most bitter feuds. The lawsuit was eventually settled, with Dolly paying Porter a large sum. But the damage was done. The once golden partnership was now fractured beyond repair. For nearly 20 years, Dolly and Porter barely spoke. Porter often criticized her in interviews, dismissing her success, while Dolly refused to fire back. She always spoke of him kindly, acknowledging his role in her career, even while he attacked her. Her silence was her shield, but privately, the wounds ran deep. Meanwhile, Porter's star dimmed without Dolly. His albums didn't sell as well. His show eventually lost its spark, and the newer generation knew Dolly as an international icon while he faded into memory. The contrast deepened his bitterness. By the early 2000s, life had taken its toll on Porter. His health declined, his career slowed, and the pride that once fueled him had left him isolated. When Dolly learned of his illness, something in her heart shifted. Despite the years of lawsuits and silence, she couldn't let the man who gave her a start fade away alone. Quietly, she returned to his side. She visited him, helped with his medical bills, and reminded him of the good times they shared. She didn't bring up the lawsuit or the harsh words. Instead, she spoke of their laughter, their songs, and the music that made them legends. In those final years, the bitterness melted away. Porter finally allowed himself to see Dolly not as the rival who left him, but as the young singer he had once believed in. When Porter passed away in 2007 at the age of 80, Dolly was there to say goodbye. At his funeral, she spoke with warmth, remembering him as her partner, her mentor, and her family in music. She even sang for him one last time, her voice carrying grief but also love. It was her final gift to the man who had both hurt her and shaped her destiny. Now, decades later, Dolly has spoken openly about the truth of their relationship. At 79, she described it as one of the most complicated bonds of her life. She admitted Porter was controlling, sometimes cruel, and that the lawsuit left scars that haunted her for years. But she also admitted that, without him, she might never have had the courage or platform to chase her dreams. She confessed that leaving him was the hardest decision of her career, that she cried for weeks after walking away. Writing "I Will Always Love You" was her way of saying goodbye with love, even though their story unraveled into lawsuits and bitterness. And she admitted that in those final years, sitting by his bedside, she saw not the man who hurt her, but the man who once believed in her when no one else did. Her greatest lesson from Porter, she says, was forgiveness. No matter how much pride and pain tore them apart, the love beneath it all survived. She remembered